Hello and welcome to For Fox's Sake. This is the preview. This guy is Rob Hayes. For those of you who've been following the podcast only for the last year or so, you will not know who I am, what I look like, what I sound like. But this is me, Rob Hayes, co-founder of the podcast alongside Pete Selby, and dragged back in from the wilderness by Pete Selby to be the host of the preview for this season, which I'm very, very delighted to be doing. Pete mentioned in the WhatsApp group that we have for all of the contributors to For Fox's Sake podcasts, he said that I was going to come back looking like I was the star of Castaway, with hair down to my shoulders and a very long beard. I could probably do with a trim on both elements, but I would say I'm more like Yannick Vestergaard, who just continues to disappear and then gets thrown back into the starting lineup, whether the fans like it or not. Would that be an apt description, Pete?
I think so. I've had a shave. I'm cleanly shaven for this. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. You've let the side down, but he's back. Rob Hayes is back on For Fox's Sake. This is unbelievable. For those who listen to For Fox's Sake over the years, over the however many, well, over a decade now, we've been talking nonsense, Rob. This is all new, obviously, now on YouTube, so it's great you can listen to it the same way as before. But yeah, Rob is back. So I mean, we're not going to go into where you've been, because we did that slightly over the last year, 18 months, however long it's been. But yeah, you're back. You've not got a bit of a twang from whichever side of the world you've been on. You've been teaching football commentary over in America in time for the World Cup. You've been traveling the Far East, but you're back now talking about Leicester against Preston in the Championship. You're back to your roots.
It doesn't get any more glamorous than this, does it? And we've also got James with us. James, we met about 10 minutes ago when we both switched our cameras on. It's a pleasure to meet you. And great to have you on board for the very first preview show, I believe.
Second.
Oh, well, who cares? The first one wasn't hosted by me, so it doesn't count.
And I will also say that I have had Wilson shouted at me in the street numerous times. So I'm with you on the Castaway look.
You're the Castaway one, although your beard's probably a little bit shorter than mine. Anyway, we digress, and we've only got half an hour on this brand spanking new format. So we're off to Deepdale. I say we, the royal we. Leicester are off to Deepdale. 2 seasons ago, clinched the championship title there. Preston Leicester is a fixture that has fond memories for Pete. You and I did our very last commentary together at the King Power Stadium, Leicester Preston, a couple of seasons ago. It's early doors in the season, so we can't really look at anything to do with form guides or anything like that. But overall feelings, I'll hear from you first, James. Overall feelings about Leicester, first couple of games, transfer window still open, new manager, a lot going on. Do you feel positive ahead of fixtures at the moment?
Well, I think pessimism is built into you as a Leicester fan, but I think that the first 2 games have been okay at best. I think we've definitely struggled in both first halves of both games. And I mean, we've spoken about it a couple of times on the podcast that the team has basically become transformed when Harry Winks comes on. So I can't really think of a reason beyond fitness that he won't start tomorrow, which I think will be a big improvement and hopefully means that we won't lose another 45 minutes. It seems that Justin is out of the team for the weekend. I think there's a twin issue of that he's got a bit of a niggle. Plus, there's reports today that a 6 million move to Leeds is going to be finalised at some point in the next couple of days. So that's quite a big loss. I've always really liked James Justin, but we need the money. It's another 30,000 off the wage bill, which will be good for PSR. And it's really sad that we have to keep saying that about these players, but that's just kind of the world of football and our situation at the minute.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, to look at the team, and we will do so with things like potential outgoings still overhanging. Justin's a name that's only just recently been mentioned, as you said. El Canouse is being linked with any Premier League team who might have any kind of money behind them, and European as well. Fatawu linked with moves, Okoli linked with moves back to Italy. I would imagine, Pete, from my point of view, being Marti Cifuentes at the moment is difficult, because you want to be trying to settle a team and a strategy and an approach that fits the players that are going to be at the club come the beginning of September. But especially with somebody like El Canouse, who is a game changer, 2 assists, more big chances than anybody else created last week, that you want to use them for as long as possible, even if they're not going to be here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think Marti Cifuentes is, I think he's about as confused as I am, because I jumped in there as the host when it's your show, Rob. And I think the problem that he's got is he's got a squad who, bar a few players, half of them think that they're going to leave and probably want to leave. Half of them don't know whether they're actually going to be part of the first team plans, but might be because the person ahead of them in the squad might leave. And then you've got a handful of players who know they're going to be playing, who actually are going to be trying really hard. So I don't think anyone really knows what's going on. I think if you said to me, is El Canouse going to be part of the squad and actually play in the first few games at the start of the season, I said no, he would have been sold. Hamza possibly off to Wrexham, El Canouse off to Villa, or as you said, anyone with a checkbook. Justin off to Leeds, more than likely. That seems to be going through. I just think we do not know, and this is going to cause problems, mainly as you go further back in the side. As I was saying on the big show the other day, the defense, for me, need clarity. You need the defenders to know exactly who's going to be playing, so they can set up a bit of a system with the goalkeeper as well. Remember, the goalkeeper is still quite new. And then as you move further forward, I don't think it matters too much, but you do need the spine of the side. So the 2 centre halves need to be sorted. The midfield needs to be sorted. If Winks is going to go. If he's going to stay, play, because you can't play Samare, as I mentioned the other day. He's never done it, and he never will. That's the line with Samare. So Winks needs to play alongside whoever, and then straight down the middle. Is Daka going to go? If he's going to go, you need to bring someone else in. And then you got Jordan Ayew, who's going to stay there, obviously, as the number 9. Out wide, again, they can all change, chop and change, depending on who goes and who stays. So it's just completely up in the air. Who knows what the squad's going to look like when we get round to the end of August. So for now, it's pick amongst who we've got, who wants to stay and who wants to play. Because as we go through the season and as we go through these games, I think that's going to mean an awful lot. It might mean players are going to be starting ahead of others that we didn't think of, but because we know they're going to stay and we know they want to play, I think that matters more than actually a player who is technically better who might want to go. I'd rather be now looking towards those who actually want to stay and want to play.
I think it depends a lot on mentality as well, doesn't it? Because El Canouse was amongst the top sort of saleable assets that Leicester have had this summer. We all expected Hermanson to go, and Didi was a very early talked about move away. And El Canouse was in that conversation. He's clearly too good for the Championship. He didn't move to Leicester to be a Championship footballer. He will probably already has had offers from most of Europe's top leagues, not necessarily the top teams, but teams that maybe could offer him European football and top flight football. So it's interesting for him, because he seemed to be working as hard as he ever has done for Leicester in the opening game. He obviously created all of the chances and is technically the best player at Leicester City Football Club, in my opinion, in terms of how good he is offensively and creatively. So if I'm Cifuentes, you put him in for as long as you can, even if you basically he's on loan to you for the first 4 or 5 games of the season before he moves to wherever, fine. But he seems to still fancy it, whereas there might be a couple of players who feel like they've done their time at Leicester, not that bothered, trust that their agent and their team are going to get them a move anyway. Whereas El Canouse, whether he was trying to put himself in the shop window or he's just an excellent professional, I think he naturally stood out against Sheffield Wednesday, as he will do in any other games that we manage to keep him for, before he inevitably leaves before the end of August.
Yeah, I think it's it's difficult because if you look at the side away from him in that position, he stands out so much, like you said, anyway, amongst all players at Leicester. But then when you look at a midfield three and you have El Khanous in front of maybe a Samari, hopefully not, but maybe a Skip and a Winks axis. If you take out Al Khanous, does that mean that the whole system in behind has to change? It probably does for me, because El Khanous is such a good player. You can put two anchors in there, really, and then have El Khanous further forward. When I think if you do change it round, you might want to change that whole midfield dynamic. And I'm pretty sure that that Marty, the manager, that was Back to the Future kids. That was if I think Marty will have his own idea of what he wants in a midfield three, but he might not be able to do that because that doesn't include El Khanous. But because El Khanous is there, it will at the moment, because you've got to play him, because again, he's one of the best players, if not the best player in the club / maybe even the league. So it's a headache for the manager, but it's a headache that's been possibly caused by still having the best player at the football club. So while he's there, and I'm pretty sure, James, we said this before the first game of the season, I think the line was, if the players are still there, play them. And then eventually, if they go, they go. But whilst the best players are there, I think we said you just got to play them.
Yeah, because if we win tomorrow and El Khanous is as integral to that win as he was last week, it might be the 6 points from these two games are the difference between being in the playoffs or not being in the playoffs, being in the top two or not being in the top two. And, you know, I'm sure Cervantes, I mean, hopefully, if he did his research before he joined the club, would have known that this is kind of where Leicester are at. There's a massive turnover of players. There's lots of chaos at the moment, and you hope that it is controlled chaos to a certain extent. I'm not really sure whether it is or not. So, yeah, I think just go with your best team until the end of, well, whenever the transfer window closes, the first week of September.
All right, let's look at how you would go then. Right now, as we sit here recording at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, the day before the game, how we would line up the starting 11 for Leicester City. Now, this can be what you think it's going to be in terms of a prediction, what you would prefer it to be in terms of your desire. I know Pete would have Samari training with the under 8s or something as far away from the training ground as possible. I'll kick it off. Stolarczyk obviously starts in goal. Last week, Cifuentes said that Ricardo might be nearing a return. If he is, I'd put him straight in at right back. If not, then Chowdhury starts there with Justin's likely to be unavailable. Centre-backs is an interesting one because it depends on where Okoli is mentally, because some more links came out this week in terms of moves to Italy. Nelson may be in the spotlight for a couple of errors in midweek. I might put Vestergaard and Nelson in at centre-back because Woutfass is a bit of a pantomime villain. Okoli, not sure if he's going to stay or go. Nelson's probably the one that you can pin your hopes on for the season. And Vestergaard, nobody seems to be talking about wanting him, so I'd go there. With Thomas at left-back. Totally enjoyed your Samari rant on the big show, Pete. So it's Winks and Skip in midfield. I wouldn't even dare utter Samari's name in this. The front three, well, the attacking midfield three picks itself. Fatawu, El Khanous and Mavididi, and then Ayew through the middle. That's what I think, or what I would like to see. Pete?
Yeah, it's just the back line, isn't it? The back line. Okoli, for me, I agree. If you're going to get rid of one of the defenders, I think Woutfass has got to the point in his Leicester career where it's up to him. Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay? If you do, and you really want to stay, play. Because if he plays, even though, and again, it doesn't matter what he's done in the Premier League, doesn't matter. We're in the Championship now. He was awesome 2 years ago. If he wants to play and he wants to be here, play him alongside Vestergaard, and then you have Nelson, and Okoli can go for money. But if he wants to go, go, and go now, because you can't stay. If you want to go, you can't stay. And it might sound a bit silly, but we don't want anyone dragging their heels, okay? Because it's not good. He needs to pick up his heels or else he's going to fall over because of his hair. So if he wants to stay, he plays because he's very good. Alongside Vestergaard, they were brilliant in the Championship and they can be again. And then we can have Nelson coming in for games every now and again, or even start ahead of one or the other, depending on how it goes. So that would be my back two. But if he doesn't know if he wants to play, then he's not. And I think with Okoli, it's the same. I thought Okoli was awful on Sunday, really, really bad. So I would drop both of them and I would have Nelson and Vestergaard and say to Nelson, look, play, have your position in the side. If you think you are a first choice Leicester City centre half, show us. Because if Wout Vass turns around after a couple of games where he's on the bench and goes, actually, I want to stay, and Nelson's been brilliant, well, cheers, Walt, you're going to stay. But also, you've got to get past Nelson now because he's been playing. So Nelson and also Vestergaard for me at the back, unless Wout Vass turns around and goes, hi, Leicester fans, I'm here for the season. Let's win the league again. Right, you're in. Brilliant. And I agree with fullback Ricardo. With Chowdhury, just a word on Chowdhury. First of all, it depends how much money they want to get for him. But I just think he's so versatile in this squad, especially if you get rid of James Justin. If Justin goes, and for me, with the fullbacks that we've got, I would, and this is off the top of my head, I'm not really giving a lot of thought, but just for now, I'm thinking I would rather lose Justin over Chowdhury, purely because Chowdhury can play in midfield. And I think if you lose Samari, Chowdhury would be quite vital in midfield as well. So I think giving him game time will be good at some point today. So if he plays ahead of Ricardo, it could be 50-50. So one plays 60 minutes, one plays 4, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? Whoever starts, it doesn't really matter. But the rest of the side, completely agree with. And especially the old Spurs axis in midfield that we've never seen yet still, Skip and Winks. One oiling the cogs of another and both turning at the same time and kicking this Leicester side into gear.
James, any agreements or disagreements or wild cards? Are you throwing Monger in for a start after his yellow card for simulation in midweek?
I mean, I would be slightly tempted to start Monger. I'm not particularly bothered by the diving. I know that might outrage some people, but I don't necessarily think that diving is any worse than calling for a throw-in when you know that it hit you last. For example, I would, if Ricardo's fit, I would play Ricardo. I would stick with Okoli. I know that he was bad last week, but pretty much every Leicester player was bad last week. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to judge him that harshly. The only difference, I would probably play Winks and Skip in midfield just to see how it fits, how it works, or potentially Winks and Hamza. And the only main difference would be I would play McAteer over Mavididi, I think.
Okay, interesting. Let's have a look at Preston then. Firstly, they've got a very solid Championship manager in Paul Heckingbottom, and Pete, you'll enjoy this one. I saw Paul Heckingbottom in the pub last week because he lives not far from me, and I didn't click at the time that it was Leicester Preston was coming up. Otherwise, I'd have maybe had a little word and seen what was what. But they, it's interesting this time of the year, this time of the season, because people are trying to make headlines or make big statements out of nothing, and everyone's saying, "Oh, Preston unbeaten this season." Yeah, with a draw and then an own goal to beat Barrow 1-0. The phrase "unbeaten" there doesn't strike much fear into me. Quite a few players missing injury wise. Big sort of Championship experience like Brady Potts, Will Keane. Also, I don't know if you saw a few days ago, but Daniel Jebison is also out after injuring himself with a personal trainer session. And Heckingbottom had a massive rant about personal trainers, and he doesn't mind the players doing something outside of the club, but the personal trainers are big to sort of celebrate this on social media and say, "Well, look, I'm working with him," and then he's gone absolutely in on Jebison's personal trainer saying, "Are you paying us for him being out for a month?" So few injuries, but Osmajic scored assist by Daniel Everson, believe it or not,
Yes.
former Leicester goalkeeper, in their opening day draw. So there's a potential for Preston to cause Leicester problems, especially, as you said earlier, James, the first half not necessarily being particularly sort of intense from Leicester in the first couple of games. Defensively, the lack of sort of solidity and the lack of sureness as to who's going to be where, maybe Preston could cause us a couple of problems.
Well, I think Jefferson being out is probably good for us. He's probably their main striker. Robbie Brady missing, good knowledge engine in the midfield. I thought that Robbie Brady was really old, but I looked him up and he's the same age as me. So that was a little bit disappointing for me.
Does that make him old for a footballer, though? Because I've started doing that now. I've gone, he's
well,
definitely
he's
too old.
33. Yeah, so that is...
Is that it?
Yeah, well, I thought he was a lot older than that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we should win on paper, but we'll probably say that for pretty much every game this season. Deepdale, hard place to go potentially. Nice old ground. It's funny you mentioned this is a tangent, but that Daniel Everson got the assist for them, because I can remember seeing Leicester versus Preston at the King Power many years ago, and the goalkeeper scored. So the Preston goalkeeper scored. So maybe it's something that they train. But yeah, I'm hoping it's just going to be kind of a routine win. And we have a good first half.
It's one of those. To ask for.
It's that team, aren't they, Preston? It's when you go into the Championship, you've got the same team turns up every week, yet they wear just a slightly different coloured shirt. And you look at the teams, and this is by far and away no smirch on Preston as a place. The home of Freddie Flintoff himself, none at all, not at all. But my God, this is a boring game, isn't it? It's Preston. There's no angle there at all, is there? Apart from their goalkeeper used to play with us, and they're one of the favourites to go down. I had them in the relegation zone. Plenty of pre-season podcasts and betting angles from my world. Then Preston were right down there, and yeah, it is that game where you just have 2-0 written all over it. But of course, football, as you said, it's not, well, it's on paper we should win, but it's not played on paper, is it? So it's a game where if we are in front, I'll be very disappointed that we do not win. And I'll just echo what James said. I just think we have to start well in the first half, because you can easily put a line through the first half of the first game of the season, no matter what happens. Unless obviously you're being thrashed in a Bolton at home in the last season at Filbert Street style. You don't want to turn up with a handful of balloons and ticker tape, and then you lose to a Michael Ricketts hat trick 5-0 at home against Bolton.
I was at that game.
I was there. My word, it was a game and a half, but. When you win on the first game of the season and you play terribly in the first half, doesn't matter. You got the 3 points, put a line through that. Here, I want to see him with a bright start. I'd love to see Mavididi really get involved. And also, and it might be a little bit big-headed, but why not? Like, if El Kanous is going to go, and do something spectacular, even wave to the away fans and say, look, I'm off, or something along those lines. But I just a comprehensive win, just to settle everyone down and maybe turn a few heads in the squad, one way or the other. Turn a few heads who maybe play and go, look, be part of this moving forward. Do you want to stay? If so, great. Look, this is what we've got going already. Or maybe it's the other way, and maybe it's a player who's on the bench or maybe comes on and just turns around and goes, actually, even though we've won, this isn't what I want to do. I just want a little bit more. I want the squad to be a little bit more together. And of course, the way that football is at the moment, and with Leicester, it's going to take time. It's going to take until the end of the month. But I want a good first half, an easy, simple win, and also maybe one or two of the players playing well who maybe are looking elsewhere. And if it puts them an extra 5 million on their head, brilliant. But also, it maybe sways them towards staying, then there we go. But the main thing is it's 3 points. Even if we play terribly, just get 3 points.
Yeah, I think what you'll get from Preston is a sense of togetherness, especially you see it a lot with teams that don't necessarily have the budget to have a particularly big or strong and experienced squad, and with those experienced injuries that we've just mentioned, they are a little bit bare looking. And Cifuentes has already shown that he is more than happy to use the strength of Leicester's bench. And it is, at the moment, as the squad stands, it's comfortably the strongest in the Championship, in my opinion. I think it will get weaker in the next few weeks, which is a potential concern. But even if the first half isn't as good as we want it to be still, he's shown that he's happy to change things at half time at 55, 60 minutes. And I think that's when Preston will start to struggle. It's their first home game of the season. They survived by a point last season. They're a little bit threadbare in terms of their squad. So it might be similar in some ways. They're not as down on the luck as Sheffield Wednesday, but it might be similar in the sense that they come out really wanting to put on a show, but ultimately get overpowered as the game goes on. So I think I'm trying to coach myself here really to enjoy the game with a little bit more patience than perhaps I feel like I should be showing. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to manifest right now that I'm not going to swear too much during a fairly stodgy first half. And I'm going to trust in the fact that Leicester's squad depth, superior technical players will start to come through in the second half. So prediction wise, let's round off the preview with that. You see, I can't think of the last time that Pete and I tried to predict a Leicester victory that included a clean sheet, because I don't think I've had any faith in a Leicester defence for a long, long time now, and I don't think that's going to change for this game. But I do fancy us maybe to make a scoreline that looks more comprehensive than maybe the first hour of the game is. So something like, with a couple of late goals, I'm going to throw out a 4-1 with a Jordan Ayew, some kind of horrendous looking goal.
a sumptuous, scuffed finish.
Exactly the kind I had imagined.
From the big man, who I think is going to be really vital for us this season. I love this attitude on Sunday. Really, really good. Prediction wise, I'm going to go for that 2-0 that I mentioned. And Mavadidi, I'm going to look at the wingers. It might be complete nonsense, but I've always thought Deepdale, big pitch. I thought it quite a wide pitch. You look at their history; I know they've had wingers in the past, etc., in the 50s and that. But I'm looking at the wingers to really dominate here. I want the midfield. I want it to be controlled. That's what I want, because Leicester, we are better than most sides in this league, and we've got to eventually get going and play in a way where we are under Maresca. And we don't want to hark back, but under Maresca, some people put it down as boring, but we were in control for massive swathes of 90 minutes of football. It was not easy, but it was made to look easy because of the way that they played. And some people put it down as being boring, but I quite like that. I want it to be controlled. I want to see that, but also I want to see the wingers really in action. And hopefully under Cifuentes, we've seen that Marty likes to play with really attacking wingers and get the ball to them. And I want a Mavadidi goal in a 2-0 win.
Yeah, I'm going 2-0 as well. And maybe it'll win me the pools. Who knows?
The pools? How old are you?
Does the pool still exist? I don't know.
I don't know. Ask Robbie Brady. You're about the same age. Okay, so we've got 2-0, 2-0, and 4-1. A hat trick of predictions for a Leicester win. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, James. Thank you, everybody else, for watching, listening, or however you're consuming this preview. For foxsakepodcast.com is the website. You can find us on all the usual socials as well. And I'm sure Pete and the gang will be back with a big show to dissect whether he got his 2-0 prediction right or not in the very near future.